Yo, what is going on, guys? So today we are going to get into episode 2 of the current conversation. Pretty much today what we're going to be talking about is intermittent fasting and how it works, what are the stigmas behind it, what can you do to improve it, pretty much everything around the whole system, and disproving the stigmas, I guess. So a lot of people believe that you only lose weight on it, you can't gain any muscle, the diet only targets fat loss, when in reality it's not the case. So yeah, let's get started. Okay, so the first thing to talk about when talking about intermittent fasting is the different versions of it. So you have the 16-8, you have the 24, you have the 24-hour one. Pretty much what those mean is based off hours, right? So you go 16 hours of no eating and 8 hours of eating. So you can do it any way you want. In this video, I'm going to be discussing the 16-8 because that's what I'm going off currently, and that's what I've done the most research off. So this video will mainly be targeted towards the people who do 16-8, but it's not only to that. Of course, it still will apply to people who are doing the 24, the 18-6, the 24, whatever it may be. Okay, so first thing we're going to get into, besides the fact of the different diets or the different versions of it, is training. So a lot of times people think that on intermittent fasting you don't need to train, when in reality it's going to help the whole process out. So when we talk about training, you can do any sort of training with it. It doesn't matter. You can do CrossFit. You could do any sort of bodybuilding exercises. It really doesn't matter about the type of training you're doing. You just need to make sure that you're training in general, just burning calories and just making sure that you're pretty much sweating in general. So the second thing we're going to get into, besides the whole fact of just the versions of the diet, is what it does for the brain, right? So everything starts here. One of the things that this does is it constantly repairs the mitochondria, which in return is going to restore ATP, which in return is going to give you more energy. So to give you the simple version of it, your mitochondria becomes more developed as intermittent fasting carries on, and it's going to build a bigger and bigger chain for energy for you to hold those ATPs and restore them, right? So in all, you're going to have way more energy and way more output when it comes to working out, when it comes to doing work in general, just participating in most activities. So that's the first benefit, right? The second benefit, what's going to happen is whenever you fast, you're going to release catecholamines. What these do is these burn fat and increase blood flow into the large muscle groups. So when you're training, it's going to also increase force output. So once you increase force output, you can obviously lift more weights. You can obviously do more editing to your body. So in return, you're going to get bigger in general. So that's one thing with catecholamines and ATP, right? The next thing we're going to look into is mTOR, the mammalian target of, what is it? Rapamycin? Yeah. I think it's rapamycin. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. So what the thing with mTOR is, obvious. It's a thing that grows your muscles, right? It activates muscle growth and protein synthesis. So what that means is pretty much when you're going through protein synthesis, your body is pretty much taking all the proteins together and utilizing it the way that it should be, putting it into your muscles, just overall using them instead of them just letting you go to waste. It works very closely with insulin, right? So the thing that you do when you fast is you lower your insulin levels like crazy. And if many of you don't know what insulin is, it's a hormone released from the pancreas. It's really not relevant like what it is. You just have to know how this works. So insulin is lowered, right, when you work out and when you fast. So what you're going to do is you're going to work out at the end of your fast. That's going to be the first best tip to gaining lean muscle. Because what you're going to do is it's going to work symbiotically pretty much. You're going to have two sources of low insulin, which is making you double sensitive to insulin spikes, right? So this is why it really matters what you're putting in your body after you work out, or even when you break your fast in general, because you're so insulin sensitive at that one point, right? So one thing to talk about when you spike your insulin, right, is what you're putting into your body after a workout. So first, you're going to obviously making sure that you're putting in those amino acids, so your proteins, right? You want high, lean, clean protein. That's the main thing that you want to focus on. The next thing you want to focus on is not trying to put fats in, because what's going to happen is what insulin does is when it spikes, it opens cell doorways, right? So these cell doorways are good for proteins and carbs, but they are not good for fats, because those fats will go into storage and ultimately appear somewhere else, on your stomach, on your arms, wherever it may be. So yeah, you want to keep those to a low. However, you do want to keep omega-3s in there, and a small amount of omega-3s potentially will open a pathway and help out protein synthesis by 50%, right? So what that means is you are going to be utilizing all the lean, clean protein that you just put into your body and enhancing how it's synthesized by 50%, which is huge. Like, you're going to get much bigger, much faster just due to that fact, and you're going to enhance your AMPK by a huge amount. The next thing we're going to talk about is glucose and fructose. So glucose could be white rice. It's a carb. It's a starchy carb. It's just any sort of carb that you can usually find that's savory. That's pretty much what glucose is. So the thing with glucose and fructose, oh, by the way, fructose are fruit. There are other things, but fructose is mainly in fruit. So the thing with fructose and glucose, right? They have their own channels and pathways, but glucose needs sodium to be utilized, whereas fructose can be directly utilized. It doesn't need anything, so it can be directly pushed through the pathway and brought into your system. However, this needs sodium to be enacted. So what you need is a source of sodium, right? So what we're going to use is we're going to use pink Himalayan salt. What the combination of these three are ultimately going to do is they're going to help you break down carbs much faster than you're breaking them down now. So usually you can break down a carb per minute, right? With all of these three combined, you can break down 2.4 carbs per minute. What that is a 240% increase in your carb breakdown. So that's going to help it put it into the muscles more quickly. You're going to be able to use it. Your energy is going to be higher. It's just going to get into your system faster, which you want in that direct amount of time. Another thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to do this workout or break your fast near the morning or the middle of the day, because what you can do, and this isn't for everyone, obviously not everyone drinks caffeine or drinks coffee or drinks Monsters or whatever it is, any source of caffeine. But if you do use that, it'll increase your glycogen intake by 66% if you utilize all of these things combined, including your caffeine, of course. So in one of my last videos, I think I mentioned what glycogen is, but pretty much glycogen is a hormone that's released to repair all of the muscle breakdown that you just had during your workout. Be sure to add caffeine in it. I think it's one of the most essential things in general. And the last thing I'm going to tell you about this whole thing, you don't have to do it, but if you did have a high calorie day, or if you do want to stay shredded, try adding MCT oil or just try having MCT oil at the end of your night, right? What it's going to do is it's going to increase your resting metabolism. So you're going to be burning fat in your sleep, and you're ultimately going to become a fat burning machine by the time you wake up in the morning. You're just going to be ready to go, and your system's going to be ready to work. It's really not based off whether you do keto or not. People think that you can only have MCT oil if you do keto, but that's just not the case. MCT oil is good for you. Those medium chain triglycerides have a bunch of benefits, and I will do probably another video about them in general. But yeah, so that's it. Obviously, you are free to do this and try it out. I think it's beneficial, and it's been beneficial to my results in a whole. Like, I've loved doing intermittent fasting. I think it's helped my brain so much. It's made me sharper. I have more memory. I have Like my workouts are better. Everything about me feels better. And if you really want to go the full mile, I would advise you to do ketogenic dieting with this, because with those two combined, you're pretty much godly. Like doing those two is probably the two best things you could do for your body in general. And if you do this, I would also say that there are a few benefits that I didn't mention, like the fact that it also enhances your nervous system. So what that means is if you have herpes or cold sores, cold sores are a form of herpes, but say you have cold sores, your body's going to go into autophagy, I think it is. I'm pretty sure that's the word. I could be completely wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's autophagy. It's going to go into autophagy, and it's going to affect you're pretty much going to diminish all the pathogens within your nervous system, right? It's going to be constantly attacking them, and you're just not going to get cold sores as much because due to the fact that that stress, anxiety, depression, all these extreme emotions release it. But if it's constantly attacking those pathogens, you'll have the effect of not getting them as much, So, yep, that's pretty much it. Just wanted to explain the whole thing and how intermittent fasting works in a whole. And I hope you guys liked the current conversation, episode 2. So be sure to like, subscribe, comment, and do what you want to do. And that's a wrap.